I found the coolest passage right in the middle of a biblical genealogy. And just to think, I was going to skip it over. So I'll admit, I have skipped over biblical genealogies before. Have you ever done that? They're kind of long and boring, and they don't seem relevant to us, and they're names that we can't pronounce, and we don't know most of the people, right? So it's easy to skip them over. But there's some really amazing things about biblical genealogies. Now, the first thing to understand is that they're in there for a reason, other than just to bore you. They actually serve a purpose for the audience to, so that the audience can know who is being talked about. And ancestry was really, really important. It was part of a person's identity. So you find sometimes genealogies in the middle of really weird places. Like, for instance, there's a genealogy of Moses right smack dab in the middle of the story of God telling him to go, before the Pharaoh. And so it's in there for a reason, to kind of say that this is the Moses that went before Pharaoh. So sometimes genealogies actually serve a purpose, who the genealogy is about and where it is in Scripture. Now, if you want to learn a lot about genealogies and the purpose for them, I would suggest to do a deep dive on YouTube, because there's a lot of channels that can do a much better job than I can in explaining all the great purposes of genealogies. But what I want to talk about today is first this really cool little passage that I found in the middle of a genealogy, and also 3 tips to help you read genealogies so you don't skip them over. So before I get into the gem that I found, let's go over these 3 tips. The first one is to read the passage aloud and just blurt out whatever just comes out of your mouth. Just blurt it out. Turn it into a little bit of a game. See if you can pronounce the names. Now, I have kind of a funny little story about this. I was in a Bible class at my church. We were studying Romans, and it was the last day. And as was custom with Abraham, he always liked someone to read a passage of Scripture aloud, and then we would talk about it. And, at the end of Romans, Paul goes over just a litany of names that he wants to greet. And so, there's just this litany of names, and he asked for a volunteer to read this passage, and there wasn't any volunteer. And I thought, well, I kind of have experience just reading these passages aloud, so I'll go ahead and give it a try. And I'm going just powering through and blurting these names out, and I come upon a name that I just don't know. I just don't know what it is at all. And Abraham's just blurt it out. Don't worry about it. And I'm like, but I don't even know how to blurt this one out. So we all had a good laugh, and I just blurted something. I have no idea what it was. I just blurted it out, and I just powered through the rest. But anyway, yeah, just turn it into a little bit of a fun game. See if you can pronounce the words. It does make it much more interesting. Number 2 is to listen to an audio while you're reading it. So you can just download an audio app that will read the Bible audio. There's websites that can do that as well. And so as you're just listening to the audio, just read along with it. The only trick there is just to make sure that you are listening to the same translation as you're reading. I personally haven't done this, but I have heard people that do like it. They say that it really, really helps a lot. And the third tip I have is just to have a highlighter in hand and expect to find something. So like I said, just like in these genealogies, you find little bits and pieces in there, and it can be really, really interesting. You can also read to see if you recognize a name. My husband likes to do that. He's like, I'm always looking for a name of a character that I know from somewhere else. So that's how I found this little gem that I'm going to read to you today. I just had a highlighter in hand, and I was like, I'm just going to go ahead and get through this, and maybe I'll find something interesting, because I wasn't really feeling it, but, I didn't want to skip it either. So I found this really cool little passage. I'm going to read it right straight from my phone here. It's in 1 Chronicles 4, 9, and 10. And this genealogy is the descendants of Judah, the tribe of Judah, and 1 Chronicles 4, 9. They're going into, so-and-so bore so-and-so, so-and-so fathered so-and-so, and then boom. Jabez was more honorable than his brothers, and his mother called his name Jabez, saying, because I bore him in pain. Jabez called upon God, the God of Israel, saying, Oh, that you would bless me and enlarge my border, and that your hand might be with me, and that you would keep me from harm, so that it might not bring me pain. And God granted what he asked. So I thought that was really cool. And then after that, it goes back into the genealogy. So right smack dab in the middle of a genealogy of Judah, it talks about Jabez, and he has this really cool prayer that he asks, that he prays to God, and it says that God granted what he asked. That's really, really cool. And the funny thing is just a couple of months prior, one of my mentors in a Bible class that I was in was telling a story about how she had the prayer of Jabez memorized. And one night when she was struggling to sleep, just the prayer just like rose up inside of her, and she declared it, and she was able to get back to sleep. And so it really, really worked for her. And she did mention that it was in First Chronicles, but I didn't come home and look it up or anything. I just kind of forgot about it. And then as soon as I read it, I was like, oh, yes, Eileen had mentioned that. And so I just kind of thought it was really cool. So anyway, that's all I have for you today. Just try those 3 little tips if you struggle getting through the genealogies, and just keep in mind that they're in there for a reason, and you might find some really interesting things tucked in there. So if this video has helped you, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Go ahead and subscribe if you'd like to see more. I do videos like this, and also just how to study the Bible, and also how to journal. So if this has blessed you, go ahead and subscribe. And also, you might want to check out these videos over here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you the next time.